Welcome everyone to a casted game of Age of Empires 4, and today spawning in the southeast corner of the map, playing in blue, we've got GiveUAnxiety playing as the Holy Roman Empire, and his opponent on the northwest playing in red. We've got Avely playing as the Jushi's Legacy. Welcome everyone to Dry Arabia. That's the map for today, a classic map, probably the best map in Age of Empires 4. I mean, I think it is. Let me know in the comment section below if you agree or not, and if you don't agree, which map is your favourite? Well, I'm pretty sure you guys are going to vote for Dry Arabia, right? In fact, okay, you know what? Let's switch it around. Let's say what's your most favourite map, and also what's the map you hate the most in Age of Empires 4. I think that second part of the question is going to be much more interesting. But what's interesting is this matchup. HRE versus Jushi's Legacy. One of the olds versus one of the news. And, I mean, the HRE, I believe, are an incredibly strong civilization, especially with the 40% buffering of the villages you get right at the beginning of the game. It really sets them up well in that dark age to the feudal age. On the other side of things, though, Jushi's Legacy, they are no slouches when it comes to economy. Especially when you factor in things like the Song Dynasty. An incredible dynasty for the Jushi's Legacy, making those buildings that are non-production buildings cost a lot less wood. Makes it crazy amount of wood savings. That can be pumped into so many things. And you guys know how I feel about farms, right? And holy moly, sometimes you can just look away for a second, look back again, and the Jushi's Legacy has somehow got like 20 farms spawning incredibly quickly. Of course, because of the cheaper cost. Now, with the GUA playing as the Holy Roman Empire, I expect them to go to the feudal age pretty quickly, and that's exactly what they do with the Ark and Chapel. 6 villages building that. And I suspect, obviously, when that Ark and Chapel does go out, the prelate's going to go right inside and make sure all the villages in the circumference of this Ark and Chapel will be buffed by that 40% gather rate. Now, what can be fantastic, though, is, well, because of the Song Dynasty, that does allow the Jushi's Legacy to get that second town center very quickly. We have been seeing a couple of matches recently with the trend of Jushi's Legacy actually playing quite aggressive with one town center into Chukunu, because, of course, they don't even need Song Dynasty. They don't need the dynasty system to get the quote-unquote dynasty units if you're playing as a Chinese. So you can only get Chukunu without the Song Dynasty. The question is whether it does that against the Holy Roman Empire today. I'm not so sure, because I feel like it's a very all-in play if it decides to do that. Of course, because the HRE can have a strong economy. Now, speaking of economy, Jushi's Legacy going up with the meditation gardens, that's going to give a lot of nice passive resources. Primarily on gold and the... Well, I think it's going to capture some of the wood there as well. Double gold being caught in, and the deer as well. Actually, I'm not sure. Is deer captured? I'm pretty sure it is, but got me second guessing there for a second. There's that feudal age. Now the question is, what does GUA go behind this? It's going to go for a barracks. Now, yeah, if you guys know GUA, you're going to be expecting aggression, right? None of this 2TC madness, none of this fast castle, although it could still be a fast castle. It's going to be looking to pile on some pressure, which is understandable because the meditation gardens is in a spot where you can probably harass it a little bit, right? It's quite far out, and that's kind of what you want to do against the meditation gardens. It's a passive landmark, but if you do get units on it, around it, you do reduce the amount of resources that it generates for, you know, the Jushi's Legacy. It's pretty important you do that, because what you don't want is for that to go a bit crazy, right? Nautilus, thank you for the raid. I appreciate it. Guys, check Nautilus out if you like some 1v1 gameplay in particular. I'm pretty sure every time I dropped in the stream, that's what I've seen him playing. So if you want to see first-person perspectives of playing Age of Empires 4, certainly a good place to be. Thank you once again. Now, factoring in that both civilizations at this point do have 19 villages apiece, just bear in mind GUA's economy will be stronger with that 40% buffering. It does give them good timing with getting a barracks and maybe a couple of units out. And that's exactly what we see. It's going to be man-at-arms. What's actually interesting about Jushi's Legacy, by the way, they actually get the early Palace Guard, which is a really nice unit. Kind of gives you that vibes of the early man-at-arms, obviously the equivalent, but for Jushi's Legacy, gives you, obviously, there's only one other civilization that get this unit in the feudal age, and that is, of course, the English. So I'll be interested to see how Jushi's Legacy deal with this. Like, it's kind of an interesting choice here, because you wouldn't necessarily expect it, considering Jushi's Legacy does have a decent unit to deal with this, the Palace Guard. Of course, you could also go for ranged units, as long as you're going to be at kiting, and immediately pulls those villages away from gold. So early aggression coming in from the HRE, which is not usually expected, but going out to the deer camp as well for that all-important food. But I do like this move. It does give him a bit of map control, forces Avely maybe to produce some units, pushing away those villages on stone. It does have enough stone already for that second town center, and with the Song Dynasty coming in very, very soon, with the Zhanglang Tower, it's going to get that second town center pretty quickly. You can see villages going out. Maybe you just need a bit more wood, Look to maybe just drop that off, and he's going to drop it down there on the golden wood, right? That's a really prime location for it, because it's quite close to the town centre to have that kind of condensed economy. You typically see that with Juicy Legacy, but it's also going to protect that gold vein, which is obviously incredibly important. Speaking of gold, he does have 2 gold veins in the north, so this is certainly going to be a spot that's going to be contested, maybe for the HRE, a spot that where Juicy Legacy is going to have to protect. You definitely don't want to lose those gold spots. Maritime cycling around a little bit. Hasn't been able to get that much value out of this, to be honest, GUA, and it's kind of rough. But behind this, what it does allow him to do is to get to that castle age. It does look like it's going to be castle age behind this, whereas obviously Avely going for that second town centre, he's going to be stuck in the feudal age for quite some time. The question is, what does GUA do behind this? Does he go for the Relics Cathedral, which I think is a solid play, because, I mean, if he gets those relics, it's incredibly important. I mean, what he could do is try and see out the game by getting a Burger of Palace. I'd probably opt for getting the Relics Cathedral, in all honesty, because I feel like in Age of Empires 4 now, the way it is, despite the second town centers having a nerf, only carrying 7 villages garrison inside it, and also the shop, the one, I think it's been reduced with 1 tower range than what it used to be, makes it a little bit less static as a defense, like less strong as a static defense rather. So I'd kind of expect to be seeing the Relics Cathedral. I'm not sure it's all that hard to really kill opponents off too easily. We'll have to see what GUA feels like doing. He's moving further forward. He's going to go for a Burger of Palace as well. And quite purposeful intent here, putting it forward just to make sure the distance between him and his opponent is reduced. So he's going to try and punish this 2 town center Song Dynasty. Which is understandable, right? Because you want to punish this as much as possible. What you really don't want to do is let Juicy Legacy to get online with their economy and really build up, and it will take some time for that to happen anyway, but he's already got a 3 villager lead, 4 villager now. And granted that the HRE, the prelate bonus, the prelate buff will actually add some buffering to that villager deficit. Question is, can he react in time? And what I have to consider as well with this aggression that's going to come, he will actually be able to get the lion's share of the relics, you'd feel. And we can see that already transitioning into the palace guards. 2 barracks on the field now. Pumping out those palace guards just to stabilize a little bit. Maybe pressurize this deer camp, right? This is probably the only exposed area for HRE at the moment that he can really hit. Question is, does Avely spot this? And he does now, the scout riding right into that. There we go, spots it. He's going to back away, of course. And we talked about the farming transition, how cheap it can be, and there it is already. And it kind of makes sense. I think the reason why it's so strong as well is because when you play a 2 town center play like this against players being aggro or being aggressive, you want to have that cheap economy to rely on, to not have to rely on deer camps, not have to rely on boars. And that's exactly what he's got. Cheap farms. Palace guards are going to push those villages away, which is actually really important because the HRE don't have cheap farms. And he's already boosted out the prelate out of the Ark and Chapel, which is actually an interesting choice. Like, he's foregoing a lot of economy to get that relic, but I mean, ultimately, if he does get the relic, obviously long term, it will pay dividends. Running into the town center a little bit, Palace Guard will tank it enough. He's got the man-at-arms, right, to deal with this. It's going to get the upgrade to it as well, just making them a Castle Age version of that unit. He's going to head out across onto the map. Because you get the deer camp in the northeast, and this time he's actually going to get an outpost, learning from the mistakes of the past. Palace Guard will spot that. I love this play by Avely, by the way, just to keep a Palace Guard on the deer camps, just to stop villagers coming out, making GUA have to deal with that. And this is very significant because not only is it implying pressure, it's forcing GUA not to attack Avely's base. And Avely will be happy with that, by the way. The 2 town centers, what he really needs to do is buy time for his villagers to work. And you can see this, he's going to definitely look to buy time, getting the outposts, and he's going quite heavy on stone, so I mean, he might opt for a 3rd town center, which would be super, super greedy. He could potentially think about saving up so that when he goes to the Castle Age, he can afford to keep nice and early. I'd imagine it's the latter because we're probably expecting quite a bit of aggression. Obviously, the Burger of Palace is quite, I'd say, it's quite brave. It's quite brave to go for a 3rd town center. So we'll see if that's what he decides to do. But plenty of outposts going up. I think, generally, if you want to take tips from this game on how to defend, and how to set yourself up for a good defense. Say you're a player that wants to boom away or playing Juicy Legacy, this is probably one of the best ways to do it. Get a lot of outposts. It adds a lot of damage output. We see a lot of villagers on that stone. Oh, Avely, you got to spot it. He does react. Obviously, having the outpost does rely on you spotting it and garrisoning the villages. It does garrison the majority of them. Only killed 2 villagers so far. But still, it's caused a bit of idle time, which is a decent amount. And we can see those relics really being brought in, by the way. He's got 1 in deposited already, 2 more on the way. And he's actually taken out the meditation gardens slowly but surely. Don't underestimate that as well, because that was a decent amount of resources that were coming in there before, obviously. 67 gold, so a decent amount. And it looks like he wasn't actually getting the deer camp. So I was pretty sure actually there weren't. I think it's generally static food. Things like berries count, but not deer camp. And there is that cartilage. It's going to go with the Shaolin Monastery. And so really what we find out is that the stone is really for the emplacements. It looks like, yeah, certainly. Wanted to get those emplacements nice and early. Now the Shaolin Monastery will help him try and contest some of the relics, although 3 of them have already been taken. So that makes things pretty tricky on that front. Relic being brought back there with the prelate. GiveUAnxiety bringing it home. Now that gold income, whilst it doesn't have the Relics Cathedral, unfortunately won't be doubled. There's still a decent amount of gold economy coming in. And behind this, with 14 military on the field, I wouldn't be surprised to see GiveUAnxiety maybe challenge for some of those sacred sites. Maybe a sacred site victory could be on the cards. I think you really have to make use of that, by the way. If you're up against a civilization that's booming in the way that Avely is with Jushi Legacy, you got to do everything in your power, not only just to challenge it, not to just to pressurize it at least. That's a lot of villages idle there, by the way. Wait, have they been idle since building the monastery? Well, they've reacted now. But certainly, if you feel like you can't do critical damage, which sometimes is the case, by the way, especially with the number of outposts it's got here, like, it's incredibly hard to push this. You've got to start pushing some of the mid-map objectives, the sacred sites. Ultimately, that's what they've been designed for. Sorry about that camera jerking, but yeah, that's what they've been designed for. To force your opponent to try and come out onto the map, and obviously is a nice win condition possibility for GiveUAnxiety. I feel like it's on the cards, considering the way the game's planning out, and it's kind of difficult for GiveUAnxiety to do critical damage, right? It's only killed 3 villagers so far. Well, that's about to increase. Especially with... Wait, Avely? He's not reacting. He's going to lose a lot here. And this is a problem, for sure. Sexite has been captured in the northeast. Scout just harassing this. I think... Oh, no, the Prelate won't make it back home, but it's pretty much close to home. But look at the spam of units. Setting in Spearmen as well, trying to get everything he can into the base to do as much damage as possible. As you can see, with these Spearmen trickling in, with the outposts there, with the emplacements in them, yeah, I'm not so sure how much value he's going to get. It's going to cause idle time, though, more than which is actually not bad, considering it's 20 villages idled. Almost half the economy. He's going to prick up that relic in the end and deposit it. That's going to be the 4th relic, by the way. That's going to be really good gold income. And it does go a long way to negate that villager difference, I gotta say. Deer camp on the east, almost taken, but look at the resources he's got control over, right? It's so much resources, especially when you think about these 8,000 gold veins. What I would love to see GiveUAnxiety do is to think about getting control of these. I gotta say, this is actually an awkward spawn. This spawn really favors Avely, by the way. This gold should not be this far into his corner. I mean, it is technically in the north corner of the map, which should be technically between the 2 players, but it's not. Avely is not really on the west side. This would be like the even spawn, symmetrical spawn if Avely was there. Unfortunately, it's a lot closer to it, so GiveUAnxiety unfortunately doesn't get the rub of the green in that. Trying to get the sacred site down the south, won't be able to in the end. Shaolin Monk is trying to challenge that. Setting some units in the north, GiveUAnxiety, just to see if there's any action going on the gold vein. Back at home, GiveUAnxiety getting that farming transition, which obviously isn't as smooth as it was for Jushi Legacy. It's just a lot more expensive. See the 75 wood, really. That's the full cost of those. If you factor in Jushi Legacy, getting it in for, well, he's getting it full price now because he's on the song. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Yeah, 45. It is 45. I have to change player perspective, but just to let you know, the reason why the colors changed there for a second, it is a spectator bug. So you can't really change the positioning or the roles that you've got primarily because of the reason why I chose blue and red here today is because the colors were too similar. Obviously, taking into consideration there will be some colorblind people watching, so got to make sure. And it's actually quite hard to see some of the colors when they're too similar. Trying to push on the forward. It's got a lot of those crossbows pushing that back. Yo, Crackety here. Thank you for the raid. I appreciate it, dude. Hope you had a good end of the stream. I saw some of the games, of course, and seem to be doing pretty well. Obviously, some awkward spawns with some of the games, but it is what it is with Age of Empires. Speaking of awkward spawns, if you guys joined in, well, this is a good spawn generally, but I got to say, there's 8,000 gold in the north for Avely. It's, you know, it's kind of really favorable for him there. Just as a recap for those who've joined, we've got a 3-town center play here. That's probably come up just recently, though, for Avely. Booming away versus an HRE that actually went sort of man-at-arms feudal age into Fast Castle and went into the Burggraf Palace, really spamming out units. Has actually got 5 of the 5 relics. It's got all 5 of them and the 3 sacred sites, which is kind of nuts when you think about it. So the gold income's going to be insane. And it's all brought about the fact that there's a lot of greed coming in from Avely, right? He's got 75 villages to count for it, though. And so that will be pretty decent at counteracting the gold income coming in for the HRE. Coming down the south area just to protect that sacred site. And I did mention earlier that sacred site victory condition is a potential option for GiveUA, considering how the Juicy Legacy is playing this. The thing he's got to be careful about is got to make sure he shores it up. He's got to make sure it's protected, and he's going to be doing that with some defensive outposts, but possibly with some palisade walls as well. Palace guards heading back home. All right, well, I think we've got a bit of downtime. So yeah, thank you again, Crackety here for the raid. I appreciate that. And if you guys are watching on YouTube, make sure you, if you want to see some great 1v1 games, especially if you're a Byzantine enjoyer, you're gonna want to, you're definitely gonna want to check out Crackety here on Twitch. I spend a lot of time on his streams because it's a definitely good watch. It's very entertaining and there's great games as well. It's a very high level play, obviously, so that's what we want to see. So make sure you join in. But I got to say, farming transition-wise, I mean, we said it earlier, when you look away for a bit and you look back again, Juicy Legacy's got a massive farming transition. Let's just see what it's got. There it is. Oh, it's a beautiful sight. Take a look at it. It is beautiful. Can I just say, I really appreciate this, how he's done this. These are perfect farms, especially when you factor in the outposts. This guy, he's a farm enjoyer, you can tell. He's placed the outposts exactly where they need to be. No scuffed farms at all. These are, I mean, hang on a minute. This is quite possibly the best farming I've ever seen. I'm impressed. Avely. I'm a big fan now. GiveUA's is not too bad either, but to be fair, there's nothing wrong with these farms either. We're in for a treat today, lads. It isn't always like this. I can tell you that much. Now, speaking of more, this is quite a lot of units. GiveUA's got quite a lot more than his opponent. He's going to head in with horsemen, couple of man-at-arms, and do I see some lance connector in there? Just the one. Just the one's lonely lance connector, and he's going to be swinging his sword before too long. But you can see the intent, right? GiveUA has to do damage. And we're already kind of heading to the stage of the game where this mid-map objective, the sacred sites, is becoming ever increasingly important. When you factor in the villager difference, the economy here for Avely is incredibly good. And what GiveUA is going to have to do is going to either have to put some pressure on or shore up the sacred sites, or maybe even both. Because he's got to make sure. I mean, it could go to the late game even still, especially when you factor in the Palace of Swabia approach. I mean, there's nothing like that on the cards at this point. I think when you've got 3 sacred sites and you're behind this number of villages, you're possibly going to be playing in for the sacred site victory. The question is if you commit to that completely wholeheartedly and not edge towards the Imperial Age even, it does put you in sort of an all-in approach, which is, you got to read the game and see how likely it is. But with 6 minutes on the clock, it certainly feels feasible. Oh, a couple of man-at-arms. Acting as scouts, really. He's extending the farming. Holy moly. I mean, this is probably as much as you're going to fit now. I mean, that's a lot of farms, by the way. Holy moly. Now, the good thing for Avely and the Juicy Legacy, he's got a lot of crossbowmen, which makes a lot of sense, right? When you see the Burggraf Palace, it's a very telegraphing approach. Just one building, you can tell what your opponent is going to be opting to do for the most part. I mean, you can always transition away from it. You don't necessarily have to use the Burggraf Palace. I mean, initially you do, because obviously you've invested in it, and it's a bit crazy if you don't. But now that we're into the 21st minute, there's always a good reason to switch over to other units. And speaking of the other units, he does have a couple of knights there fighting around that outpost, with a couple of prelates boosting up those units. Horseman coming in from the west side. Great flank there by GiveUA, trying to catch those crossbowmen unawares, and he will. This is going to be a huge clear up. Now, there are a couple of spearmen there for the Juicy Legacy, but with this number of military, it's not going to be enough. Juicy Legacy going to get absolutely cleaned up. Avely, he's going to lose a lot of his army. But that's not half of his problem. The other half is the Sacred Site timer. He's got to somehow find a way to deal with that. And the fact is that army got absolutely decimated. Now, big wins like that can change games of Age of Empires 4. And looks like GiveUA, he's not going to let up. He smells blood now. He has to be aggressive. And maybe, just maybe, behind this, the Sacred Sites will be safe. He's got to make sure we get some replacements, though, because this is pretty still exposed. And I think if there's one Sacred Site that's going to be decapped, it's got to be the one in the northeast. But he's going to be riding in now, GiveUA, with a couple of prelates healing up as well. Not only that, they will be able to add into the damage output for units when they're engaging. As you can see, it has inspiration. Deals 15% more damage. Going to ride out onto the farming transition. We admired the farms, but there won't be any villagers working them before too long. Unless he deals with this. Now, the good thing for Avely, he's got a lot of static defenses, right? I think this is a bit of an awkward spot for GiveUA. In many ways, because this is awkward. It might not look it. It might be thinking, what am I talking about? It's a blue of C units. What could possibly go wrong? What could possibly go wrong is if GiveUA doesn't have the military backing this up, doesn't have the economy to make more military once he loses, and he will lose this, that'll be difficult. Because obviously the massive defender's advantage, look at the production coming out for Avely, it will clear up, but also the static defenses. Look how many outposts he had, and they've pretty much all got emplacements in them. If they don't have emplacements in them, they've got villages in them that are firing off. So this will be totally cleaned up by Avely, and what does that leave GiveUA left with? Not much. Doesn't have that much food in the bank. This is a concern. I think it's a bit of a deep dive that he didn't necessarily need to do. And maybe he wasn't patient enough. Because once he does lose his army, well, make no mistake about it, Avely's going to be a much better spot now to push out. Sure, his economy was idled, but he didn't suffer any infrastructural damage. Not massively, anyway. Okay, he lost a couple of barracks. It's not a big deal. When you factor in, he can just rebuild that quickly with his villagers. But he's also got the wood to do so. But he does come in with a second wave there, GiveUA. He's not letting up in the pressure at all. Sometimes they say attack is the best defense, and GiveUA clearly a firm believer of that. The big question is, though, this Sacred Site. This is something that Avely needs to target. He's going to clear up the army back at home. GiveUA does come in with another wave, though, and that will be something a little bit concerning. I would have loved to have seen a couple of rams, though, just to back this up and push on a couple of the buildings. In any case, it might not matter. But if it does, if Avely does push this back, this could be bad for GiveUA. He has been able to build up a steady growth in villages, has equalized it a lot. Now, Avely has lost a lot of villages, 63, which is the big damage that has been done. But bear in mind, with 3 town centers, he can build that up again. It gives you Palace of Swabia vibes. Whenever I cast Age of Empires with HRE, I always say that HRE is very difficult to raid them to death because of the Palace of Swabia. Well, Juicy Legacy got 3 town centers, so it's not as good, but hey, look, these town centers are going to be working out overtime, and they're going to be producing a lot of villages very quickly to replace what it's lost. Like, you can imagine he's lost 63 villages, but he's still ahead in villages. That shows you the predicament GiveUA has. He's going to take some of the landmarks on the front. Wait a minute. No way. Oh, GiveUA, he hasn't walled this up. There's only 2 outposts. He's going to get this decapped. The army's not quick enough to get out there, and this is a problem. There was only 2 minutes on there. Only 2 minutes on the Sacred Site, and he won't be able to protect this. Unfortunately, he will lose that Sacred Site. Now, I guess what he was banking on was thinking, hey, look, okay, if Juicy Legacy do head out to that Sacred Site, well, he's going to leave himself exposed back at home. But with 78 military, the economy came online. Oh, that Sacred Site has been decapped, and now GiveUA has to go back to the drawing board. Now, the good thing for GiveUA is, all things considered, I think it is a big problem he lost that Sacred Site. But if we're going to look for a lining to this cloud, it is the fact that he killed a lot of villagers. And it does mean that his economy is keeping up. It's keeping up well, and if he does have the ability to go to the Imperial Age a lot cheaper than Juicy Legacies, and that could be a way to get his economy a little bit stronger, but every minute that passes, Juicy's Legacy economy is getting stronger. Does have a couple of land connects that will clear that up. I mean, it won't clear it up completely. It will do a lot of damage. But this is where the situation becomes tricky for GiveUA. feel like he's got the stuffing knocked out of him. As I say that, though, a lot of horsemen, a lot of infantry. Going to clear up the raiding that's happening. And you can just see that, well, GiveUA isn't as well equipped at dealing with raids as Avely was. Primarily because of the static defenses. There aren't that many outposts. He will clear this up, but again, Avely buying time, right? He did what he needed to do. He decapped that sacred site, which is absolutely huge. And it means now he can focus on recovering. He can focus on stabilizing. And especially when you've got 30 extra villagers compared to your opponent, you're looking in a good spot. He's got to be careful on the west side. Has double walls, by the way. He's always conscious about this raiding. And GiveUA, speaking of raiding, it has just dealt with the raid that's coming from Jushi Legacy. Now, Jushi Legacy didn't really kill that many villagers. It was mostly about causing havoc and mayhem. Oh, a couple of horsemen there might get picked apart by the palace guards. He does run away. Obviously, he's got the movement speed. Coming in from the middle access point as well. Going to go up to the next stage with Jushi's library. That Imperial Age is going to be pretty nifty there for Avely, especially if he gets the upgrades quite quickly. And especially with the upgrades being able to be supervised. Like, for example, if he goes for the upgrades to the elite palace guards, you can always supervise the barracks that's researching it and make it a lot faster. It's not to be underestimated. The power spike you get with the next age for Jushi Legacy, and the Chinese, of course, can be incredibly strong. And that's even not a crossbowman. Of course, horsemen counter that unit, but with this massive crossbowman, it's almost difficult to find a counter other than mass mangonels. And we do see one mangonel on the field, so GiveUA taking into a mangonel, noticing there's a lot of infantry there for the Jushi Legacy. Question is whether GiveUA will have the army to back this all up. Now, GiveUA probably will be expecting to go to the Imperial Age pretty soon. But with this 8,000 tile of gold still remaining there for Avely under his protection behind the walls. Oh, well. These walls haven't actually been built yet, but I suspect they will be. Take a look at the fight, though. There is a mangonel. He's got to protect that mangonel at all cost. Palace guards tanking on the front line. He's going to be going up against the HRE man-at-arms. A couple of Lance Connector as well. Palace guards do have to retreat. Goes on the scattered formation. Obviously wary about the Lance Connector, but also the mangonel. This is a big attack, though, by GiveUA. 97 military. He's going to take out some infrastructure, torching it down. No rams just yet, but Avely just building up, right? He's going to take good trades with the ranged component to his army. The crossbows always getting value when they're in range. Palace guards diving in. Takes the engagement, though. GiveUA trying to take the fight as much as he possibly can. He needs to clear out the meat shield. If he does, then the horseman might be able to have a chance on diving on those crossbows. But again, oh, Palace guard. I like what he's doing there. Palace guard's just distracting the army. He's sacrificing them a little bit. GiveUA not taking the bait. Always going to be careful about his mangonels, though. Palace guards might turn back around. Horsemen, they get on top of the mangonels, making sure that they can't get wrapped around. Palace guard's going to be going down. And crossbows in good numbers, but he's got to be careful here. Avely down to 77 military, but he's not throwing away. You can see how patient he's being. He's not throwing away his army. He's waiting for the right time, the opportune moment. Opportune moment might have to be coming soon, though, because he's being pressurized out of the infrastructure. It's going down here for Jushi Legacy. More army coming in. One thing that's a bit of a concern, though, with the horseman production, doesn't have that much wood in the bank. Plenty of food and gold coming in, especially when you factor in it does still have those 5 relics. 2 sacred sites. The mangonel could be key. Crossbow, but there is a springle. That's what he was waiting for. Avely gets 2 springles, snipes the mangonel, or will do. There it is. There it goes. And that's the big force they're going there for GiveUA. Only 1 mangonel, no springles. And the siege is kind of lacking here for the HRA. I got to say, it pushes us back once again, Avely. Now, didn't take up to the Imperial Age just yet, but this might be the time to do so. Hasn't had much luck killing his opponent just yet. There is another mangonel. But that mangonel is at risk from these 3 springles. Got to be careful, GiveUA, because you won't want to lose those prized units. Very expensive units, by the way. We'll need to get some springles of his own. Now, this is where the match becomes, I got to say, it's a bit devolved into who wins in terms of siege micro and springles. We'll have to see who has the rub of the green on that. Now, of course, they don't get clock tower here, unlike the Chinese Jushi, so they do have just the regular springles for now. But with the Imperial Age in, he would possibly have had those upgrades. Key upgrades like roller shutter triggers. And he's got the elite upgrades to the crossbowman, right? This is a bit tricky. He's going to go on the west side with the horseman. Has double walled, so I'm not sure how much value he's going to get there, unless he doesn't react. Going to head further forward. Avely, he's fed up of being stuck at home in his base. He's going to head out. This is the other 8,000 tile of gold, by the way. 2 key resources on the map. And GiveUA is kind of being pushed off for both. Like, I mean, the north one isn't really his for take, although as I say that, trying to get an outpost there. He will get an outpost there. Horseman about to break through, but palace guards are there. Only a handful. Probably not enough to deal with that. Horseman might run in. Gonna get a keep defensively. The keep does go up in the end. The crossbows might not mind this, actually. They might just dive in. I don't think the keep is enough. Now, the lack of boiling oil means, yeah, these crossbows just walk through. They don't care. Horsemen do break in. It's going to be idling a couple of the farms, or a lot of the farms. Coming with the man-at-arms, rather, from the south. Riding in right into the heart of the base. He's going to try and kill as many villagers as he possibly can. Still in the castle stage. Has all 3 sacred sites once again, but based on recent outcomings and results, I'm not sure he's going to be hanging his hat on that potential win condition at all. Looking to burn the farms, which is not necessarily a bad idea, but it's so cheap for the Jushi legacy. I suspect he'll just be able to rebuild them. He's getting a lot of villager kills here now. Killed 32 villagers in total. GiveUA, he's lacking on economy. This is huge. He's idled so much of that economy as well. 60 villagers, of which 32 are idled. I've got to say, though, 89 villagers are idle for Avely. That's literally his whole economy. And that's actually a lot of that's actually great work by GiveUA. He didn't achieve that much in the earlier pushes, but this is kind of crazy. Quite a few crossbows around the back. I mean, yeah, GiveUA needs to find a solution to this, right? The real concern is that it's elite crossbowmen, so this building here is pretty much redundant. The Burger of Palace, unless he goes for Landsknechter, but again, against you wouldn't do that. You wouldn't do that against crossbows. It's going to have that hard transition. I love that choice of unit, by the way, I've got to say. Going for crossbows for Jushi Legacy really nullifies a big part of the military production capability of the HRE right now. It's going to have to get more stables. Oopsie daisy. 2 mangonels. Going to try and clear up whatever else remains. And there is that Imperial Age. Going on with the Palace of Swabia, I believe. Yeah, it is. Right in the middle of the map, by the way. It's kind of interesting. But it is protected by a keep, of course, and that will extend the emergency repairs. Which would be, I mean, you guys know how I feel about emergency repairs, right? Absolutely hate it. No emergency repairs for this outpost, I'm afraid. So GiveUA will notice this. This could be a point to attack, though. Because he has the attack notification. He knows that he's struggling for gold, or at least he's looking to get gold there. That's a lot of crossbowmen. A lot of villagers have died for GiveUA. He's going to need to rebuild that economy. But with the Palace of Swabia, he's in a good spot to do so. Oh, here comes a ram trying to take the keep out, but he's on his own. And the village is coming out to torch. Going down the north. And, I mean, this is what we expected, right? That's what the outpost did, really. Avely responding adequately, more than adequately. He's got a lot of units there. You guys got to appreciate the strategy on this, right? It's so nice to see. Essentially, that's what the outposts do. That's what they're meant for. Give you that vision. Give you that tactical knowledge, that strategic information. GiveUA did what he could with it. But Avely, he could read the punches coming in. He got ready for it. Palace of Swabia working hard. A lot of resources banked up though for GiveUA, I've got to say. Maybe he needs a bit more of those villagers coming back home on the farms, because there's quite a few farms that are left unworking. But these farms are pretty special. 40% buffering on them. Crossbows just in the corner. Oh, that's going to be an absolute... Oh, okay, that's bad. They go pretty quickly. I mean, the thing is, if they can get on top of the mangonels, reduce the attack with the spearmen, they should be fine. I was just coping there for a second, thinking that the elite crossbows might be able to get 1 mangonel, but no chance of that happening. I tell you what's no chance of happening is this sacred site victory. It's not really working out here for him here, GiveUA. Lost the south one. Gonna lose the north one too. Heading into the 35th minute of the game, and both players are pretty evenly poised. I mean, it does seem like Avely at this point does have a slightly better economy, slightly better military numbers at least, but GiveUA is not anywhere near out of this game, especially when you've got Palace of Swabia involved. So it could go either way. Anyway, better late than never. Just like to say a very big thank you for everyone supporting on YouTube and Twitch. I'm streaming live on Twitch these days, especially this one in particular. I'm streaming live today. So if you guys are interested in watching some of the casted games live, maybe take a look. I'll leave a video in the description. I'll leave a link to my Twitch channel. Check it out if you're interested. Speaking about being interested, well, got the university upgrades coming in. And that's an interesting approach. Obviously, well, it's kind of understandable. Elite army tactics, you're going to want that for your infantry. Especially the palace guards, of course. Only affects the melee units. And that's what it's going to go for. Going to get Imperial Red Seals as well. Getting the extra Imperial officials on the field soon. Going to try and bust his way through here with the outpost. Does lose one Springle. 3 mangonels though. That's going to get a good shot on those infantry. Needs to get them protected in the south. The Culverin is what sniped out the Springle earlier. And villagers coming out to repair. Clutch repairs. It's important. Got to save that Culverin. It's a very expensive unit. You do not want to lose that too cheaply. Get some mangonel. Oh, God. That, yeah, he's trying his best to get rid of that, but it won't happen. Eventually, we'll take out that army. 3 mangonels floating in the air. An absolute massacre on that gold vein. Both players are probably going to be looking to just secure, at least deny the gold vein as much as possible. That 8,000 tile of gold, but the one in the north, you can see, well in control for Jushi's legacy. Now GiveUA with that Palace of Swabia has been able to boom back up again. He's got almost 200 population. Oh, a couple of idle villages there. What the great thing is for GiveUA is he does have those 5 relics. There's a good gold income there. We may even see the game devolve into trade, and well, we see 2 markets already for Avely. He's setting himself up for that trade. Ooh, 2 crossbows just being annoying. GiveUA's got a reactor though. He's got to send something. Sending a couple of palace guards down the south just to see if there's anything there, of which there isn't. Now the pressure points for GiveUA really have got to be the north here, this gold vein. But also maybe the middle entrance to the base, but he's tried it twice already in the game. Hasn't been able to do it. Gonna try it for a 3rd time. Oh, those mangonels, they're exposed. He needs to get the spearmen out in the right area. Oh no, he might lose a couple of these. He might lose a lot. He's gonna get us around. He should get at least 1 mangonel, possibly 2. Gets a couple of villagers trying to repair. He's got to repair GiveUA. He does start to repair. I think it's not going to be enough. He's going to lose another mangonel. This is absolutely massive pickings there by Avely. He won't mind losing these units at all. These are spearmen. These are cheap. And that's a lot of gold that just went down there in a blink of an eye. He looked away for a second. It was a second too long. He lost everything. And he's going to lose that last mangonel for sure. No doubt about it. That was rough. I think if you're GiveUA at the moment, I don't know about you guys, but if I was him, I'd be banging my head against a wall right now. He's had a lot of dominance in the game for a while, but just hasn't been able to deal that killer blow. Speaking of killer blows, this won't be a killer blow, but it will be a distraction. Palace guards moving into those farms for the HRE. And what Avely's doing behind this? He's starting to build that trading. Palace guards diving in quite a bit, but take a look at the bank of resources. 4,000 gold. Almost 12,000 food. And that's an insane amount of bank of resources. Now, the good thing for GiveUA is he does have control of this 8,000 gold vein, right? This is actually quite critical. When you factor in this one in the north is pretty much Avely's, at least he's getting an even split on the map. Because you do only get these 2,000, these 2 8,000 gold veins on Dry Arabia that's in the middle of the map. Tries to get an outpost forward. Palace guards might notice that. Well, it's going to go past it. And underneath the keep, which doesn't have any emplacements or boiling oil. So those palace guards will be quite happy to run through. Eventually the palace guards do get cleaned up. Did kill quite a few villagers. Wait a minute. Wait. What? What was that? Did GiveUA just delete... Guys. I'm pretty sure he just deleted that. It must have been a mistake. He must have clicked the walls, right? He looked to delete the walls. I'm not so sure why he wanted to delete the walls anyway. I think he deleted the keep. It was clearly an accident. There was nothing there that could have taken it out. Oof, that's rough. And the reason why I say it's rough, because now we see the Yuan Raiders looking to do just that, to raid their opponent. They've got bonus damage versus the villagers. They're fast movement speed. They're not great against the melee units, of course, especially spearmen. Without that keep... this is rough. This is so rough. Heading to the 40th minute of the mark. Mistakes have been made. They're not irreparable mistakes, hopefully, for GiveUA. We shall see how he reacts to this. Does he focus? Does he settle the mind and push on from here? Does he get frazzled? There's no way of knowing, really. But what we will look to know is how good are these Yuan Raiders? We don't see it all that often, but they're going to try and raid a lot of these villages. Now, bear in mind, one thing that necessarily shouldn't be happening is the HRE shouldn't really be raided to death, right? Because even if he kills villagers, he's just going to make more from the Palace of Swabia. So, this is an interesting concept. Where does Avely go from here? What's his win condition? What can he do to win the game? It's hard to see raiding entirely as a possible win condition, although he's doing a decent job of it. He's got a lot of villager lead. I think what it comes down to is just war of attrition, right? The bank of resources for Juicy Legacy looking amazing. And he's looking to try and kill as many villagers as possible. Whilst he possibly couldn't kill all the economy, he is harming it. And that means his bank of resources relative to his opponent will be better. One thing to bear in mind as well, that the benefit of raiding is it forces GiveUA to head back home and not really focus on the fact, or at least explore the fact that his opponent is trading. 70 gold coming in per trader. GiveUA has not had the aggression he's been able to have in the first 35 minutes of the game. Instead, now he's putting out fires. It came ever since that big dive in the middle of the base. I think generally getting those static defenses, these outposts, has done so much for Avely. It meant that he could never really be raided to death, and GiveUA never really had that siege push he needed with that. Coming through the north now, trying to get those stone walls to protect the trade, right? It's a definite play for that. That is a lot of elite horsemen. And all of a sudden, GiveUA pumping out military. This is one thing to think about as well. When you only have 200 population capacity, you have to find the ideal split between villager count and military. Now, bear in mind that the HRE, especially with the prelate working fast, these villagers are getting a 40% buffering. It does afford them that luxury of having a little bit of a lower villager count needed. It means you can pump more into military, which is heading that northern spot. We mentioned that there are probably 2 pressure points that GiveUA needs to focus on. And he's focusing on the one on the north so far. Not much gold left in here, 700. But more importantly, he's going to reveal the trade. Going to get siege workshops forward. Going to get a culver in. Now, hopefully, for his sake, he doesn't lose the siege like he did before. Contesting the sacred site in the south. As you'd expect. Got good mobility here with the Yuan Raiders. It's not to be underestimated in this stage of the game. Okay, now GiveUA, he spots the trade, right? Now, he's going to have to react in 2 ways, I think. He's going to have to obviously try and deny as much of the trade as possible, but quite likely needing to put traders himself. And the Yuan Raiders maybe looking just to see if he can find that trade, which of course does not exist right now. A lot of units in the north. That will be cleaned up. The crossbows, rather, they do have the incendiary arrow upgrade. And so in mass numbers they will be okay, but this is a lot of units here for the Holy Roman Empire. Especially highly armored units, knights, and man-at-arms. Oh, that's a lot of villagers though. Okay, I mean, I did say the Palace of Swabe can boost up, but when you lose this number of villagers, it might be a different story. Holy moly. These guys do have the bonus against villagers, so they will be cleaning these up very quickly. Even this keep with the cannon emplacement isn't enough to take them out. GiveUA bleeding, hemorrhaging villagers so far. Although he has killed more than he's lost. And eventually the Yuan Raiders will be taken apart. In the north, camping out. Avely sending some units just to deal with that. Palace Guards should be more than enough to deal with that. Heading down on the west side, taking out key infrastructure production buildings. That's where the Yuan Raiders were popping out from. They won't be popping out any longer. Stonewall's coming out for GiveUA, making sure it can't be raided once again. I think it's a smart move. It's kind of needed here. He spotted the threat. He has reacted accordingly. Palace Guards and crossbows. Oh, GiveUA needs to react to this. So mostly spearmen. Really mainly used for their torch damage. Loses the mangonel to the Yuan Raiders. They really bounced on that. Both players are losing army, but they're getting good value from them anyway. GiveUA, even with the Palace of Swabi, I've got to say, he's been struggling to keep up. Down to 153 population. That tells a story in and of itself. It's not a good number. He's having to rely on spearmen. Does have gold in the bank, but maybe a bit reluctant to use it just yet. There's also a little bit of mini-game, by the way. Like, whilst you do have resources, you don't necessarily want to spend a gold. You want to wait for the opportune moment, or you want to spend it on key things like siege. Because obviously once you run out of gold, that's it. Forward market for the win there, GiveUA. Obviously put that down with the villagers that were there once upon a time. Not looking for that for trader, I'm sure. But take a look at this. The Yuan Raiders, very purposeful just to check that trade. It's very important in this stage of the game. Just to get that valuable information. Down in the south. Yuan raiders keep roaming. There's quite a few villages there, I gotta say, that are pretty unprotected. GUA's got to be careful that the Yuan raiders don't spot that. Oh, it doesn't matter because the palace guards do. They're gonna head right there. And, oh, this is rough actually. GUA, he's not been able to protect his economy just as well as Avely has, and he's gonna be made to pay for this. Yuan raiders coming from the south. Palace guards are gonna kill as many as they can, but Yuan raiders will keep up to any of the villages that are trying to retreat. And this is rough. Doesn't really have the static defenses, I think, here, GUA. Stone walls never actually went up there entirely. Oh, what's going on here? He's going to try and break through. He's trying to get another layer of stone walls. Obviously trying to protect and shore up this very exposed trade route. He's going to go down the middle. Again, trying to take out infrastructure. He's not going to achieve all that much there with this level of units. He's going to need siege behind it, any sort of push. Doesn't have it just yet. Okay, we do see more elite knights coming out. Yuan raiders trying to get as much value as they possibly can. Down to 85 villages. He's starting to build up, though, once again. He's got a lot of military on the field, right? The thing is, the issue about what GA is doing at this point, and the way that Avely is playing it. Avely is setting himself out. Slowly but surely, every minute that passes, the stronger economy for Avely will be building up, as you can see it is. The bank of resources is looking incredible. What this means is that GOA has to win the game with the excess military he has, probably in the next 10-15 minutes. If he doesn't, eventually Avely will just be able to spam out units, take bad trades, but still overall come out on top. And the reason for that is he can replace his army, whereas GUA slowly wouldn't be able to. Now this is the strong push that we expected. 2 mangonels, 2 culverins. Would have been nice to see a couple of bombards if possible. Can't just afford it just yet. Gonna snipe everything he can. Mangonels will do most of the sieging. He does break through in the north, looking to raid that trade route once again, and he's doing a good job of that. On this double-pronged attack, this is an issue for Avely. He's got to hold. GOA, it feels like he's got to win in the next 5-10 minutes with this push. Will he have enough? That's the question. He's going to take out the first town center he needs to. Going to take out production as well. But Avely, if he does lose villages, it'll be doing him a favor at this point. He might even consider deleting some, just to make some population space. The question is can he deal with his mangonels? I feel like that's the big question for Avely right now. If he deals with the mangonels, he should be fine. Those mangonels are always a threat against those crossbowmen. Now, those are elite crossbowmen, but still. Palace guards just harassing villages that will be coming out the Palace of Swabia. 99 military versus 63. We now see the Imperial Guard. An incredibly strong unit for the Juicy Legacy. 408 health. Mangonels deploy. He's not able to get around onto those mangonels. It feels like if you can't get on top of them, the only way is through the army, and that would be the Springalds. Doesn't seem to be enough Imperial Guards, though. Trying to pump them out. He has the economy for them. Doesn't have the population space for them at this point. I wonder if Avely might be... at this point, you have to question, do you delete villages? 135 of them, a great resource bank. I think you delete, because you can always replace them. You've got plenty of food to do so. What you don't want to do is be overrun with military. He just snipes out one of the Covenants. Should get the next one as well. Villagers not repairing in time. GOA losing critical siege units, and he will lose the Imperial Guards there. But it was definitely worth it. The push continues to go on. Gonna head north with the villagers. That's a GOA trying to get a keep, right? I think he needs to get a keep. Trouble for him. So Avely's got military there. Oh, this keep's not going to go up. He's going to try and get one. And it's a good spot for one, but it's unprotected. I'm not so sure about this. Might need to get an outpost first, because the palace guards are getting on top of that. On the front of the base. Oh, this is an engagement here that GOA is taking. Has one mangonel, crossbows. Oh, going to need to back away. I think Avely backs away from that. What's more important is whether this keep goes up. Palace guards swinging their swords, and I mean, GOA, he's got to delete this. Yeah. That's never going up. The problem for GOA, he's focusing on the front, right? He has to. He's got to make sure this army does significant damage. In the end. Oh, he's losing stone. He doesn't have that much in the bank, and every swing of those torches, he lost a lot of stone. He recovers most of it, to be fair. Could have been a lot worse. 2 more mangonels pop out. They are being repaired as well. Crossbows, I look to defend and use their range to damage. Does have 2 Springalds that the mangonels will be a bit worried about. But we're heading almost to the hour mark. What a great game of Age of Empires 4. It's had it all. We've had some crazy strategies. 3 town center Song Dynasty with Juicy Legacy. The Burgrave Palace for the HRE, which was following on from a feudal age man-at-arms rush. A highly unusual play. Sacred Site was possibly a win condition for GUA, but missed out on it by 2 minutes. And Avely pushed back. And at this point, we don't have no idea who's going to win this one. It could go either way. I gotta say, Avely possibly does have the upper hand with the resource bank he has. But still, with one false move, it could be the end of Avely. Speaking of false moves, we have had some in the game as well. GUA unfortunately deleting a keep. Losing a lot of siege. Gets a keep on that gold vein, which is pretty much gone now. Well, he had a keep anyways. It's been it's done its job. Trying to get the stables forward for the reinforcements coming in quickly. Just to help counteract the defender's advantage that the Jushi Legacy have. Sacred Site in the south will be capped by GUA. Another bit of gold trickling in. The good thing for GUA is whilst Jushi Legacy have had trade, it was population efficient, of course, with those 5 relics. And looks like, yeah, he's had a lot of warnings, right? He's had a lot of warnings that this is a pressure point. Gonna get stone walls, double layer stone walls. There's gonna be no way that he's gonna let GUA back into the trade. Does have all 3 sacred sites for the 3rd time in the game, I believe it is. 2 mangonels and a culverin. Snipe out the crossbowman. Back at home, the farms are not all working. He's got plenty of food coming in, and it does look like he's getting trade. Alright, so he's got the market set up just in case the game needs it. He might just. That's a lot of elite horsemen. Going to try and raid as many of those traders once again. He managed to get through before the stone walls went up. But it's probably going to be the last raiding of the trade route he's got, so he's got to make the most of it. Speaking of which, how many traders does he have? A decent number, but it's falling every minute with those horseman raids. Spearman raiding. Wait, what? That is a lot of dead villagers. But to be totally honest, I think it's doing Avely a favor more than anything. Because it means that now Avely can pump out more military. I mean, he's going to be desperate to keep the get the stone walls up. I think if he loses the villagers beyond that, it's not a problem. Oh, that villager's getting in the way. Can't build up that last segment. I mean, it wouldn't matter anyway. Crossbows are there. Well, the crossbowmen should technically lose to the horsemen. With palace guards there acting as a meat shield, he should be fine. In the south, just pressurizing the keep. Wait, what's going on here? Trying to break through, but it won't happen. The stone walls will go up in the end. Does he have any villagers left? He has 1 villager left there, working hard to get the rest of the stone walls up. He's making a dash for the middle. Does have boiling oil in that keep with a bombard added in. 3 culverins and 2 mangonels. He should take out the keep. The trouble for him is he doesn't have much military here to protect, right? He's getting it now with spearmen. Palace guard's going to ride in. Does have a couple of springalds. GOA needs to protect the siege, right? He's going to get some rams as well. I think that's what we needed to see earlier, but he's getting it now. Better late than never, and this could be the start of a big push for GOA, although I say that. He's only got 25 military. What's going on? They need to be pumping out. He's using the Burgh Palace, but where's the rest of his production? He needs it now. He lost a lot of army to the raids, of course. He needs to replace it quickly. Because Avely's military number, I mean, I don't know if he know. I mean, he won't necessarily know about it, but if he pushes out now, GUA could be in a spot of bother. We'll need to add in some siege, maybe some rams of his own. Desperate to keep that keep alive if he can. No villagers repairing. I think the keep will go down. So it's a good pick off there. Wait, yeah, it does go down. It's a good pick off there, but maybe he just woke up a beast. Avely might need to get further forward and push on. It's got a couple of palace guards that should rip through the horsemen. Sending a couple of spearmen, and these palace guards should be fine. The spearmen won't be enough to deal with that. Oh, palace guards coming down the south. Gonna focus on the outpost, trying to take out the static defenses one by one. Oh, trying to get stables up and outposts. And you can see GOA is not giving up in this northern access point. Or what was a northern access point. It's not there yet. But we're heading to that phase of the game where gold is an issue for GUA. And trade needs to be well protected. Now for the pressure point that GUA is trying to put on the north, he's going to be pressurized in the south. And I think Avely's twigged on to the trade that's happening. 72 gold per trader. Got 18 traders when you factor in Avely's got... wait a minute. That'll be GUA's traders. Yeah, Avely's got 22 at the moment. Oh, villagers on that gold vein going down. Palace Guards will be cleaned up, though, by the elite knights and spearmen. That should be enough to deal with that. And yeah, this is not going to be a way in for GiveUA. The trouble is the production coming out here, they're being sniped. That's actually not ideal. It's a nice idea to get reinforcements close to the battlefield, but the trouble is now with your production camped on, I mean, the crossbows are going to clean up all the knights that are popping out, and they're still coming out, right? He's on the control group, and that's going to be a lot of resources going down. They're expensive. You know, elite knights is, you know, dealing with a situation where gold is a bit of a troubled resource to get to gather. It's going to be losing a couple of those knights popping out. Emergency repairs working well though for the HRE. 3 rams. They're pretty unprotected, but surprisingly getting good value because the HRE aren't there. They're riding towards it now. 66 military for both. 119 villagers versus 115. Very neck and neck, and it's actually very similar numbers for both players, but what isn't similar, the number of rams. That's a lot of rams coming in for Avely, looking to take out these static defenses, and then the production buildings, no doubt about that. Going to look to take out the decap the sacred site. Keep denied again there for GiveUA for the second time in the game. That is absolutely huge. I mean, he'll recover the stone if he recognizes it. It's going to get torched down though. He might lose a lot of stone if he doesn't react quickly. Does still have 2,000 in the bank, but again, stone is very precious at this stage of the game. You might not notice entirely. Down in the south. Takes an engagement. That's a lot of villagers going down there, but again, Avely might not mind. It might be a blessing in disguise. That is a lot of dead villagers. Holy moly. Oh, he's going to commit. He's committing with the villagers. I mean, the keep might just... Yeah, it will go up. I'm not sure. This could be devastating. I don't think that goes up. Palace Guards should be able to deny that. Even if it does go up, I think it just about goes up. It does indeed. And he lost a lot though, just to get that up. The good thing for him is he can replace them with the Palace of Swabia, of course. Having said that, he can't replace those units if the Palace of Swabia does get swarmed. Which is just about to by Imperial Guards. He's going to lose the keep and then lose the Mangonel. This is looking rough for GiveUA. He doesn't have the military on the field. And I think he's just about to lose that central position. He's trying to push on the west, but again, that doesn't really achieve that much for GiveUA. This is looking rough. He's being sniped as well. He's being sniped. Oh no, the Imperial Guard's going to ride on top of those 3 culverins. Those guys are goners, but oh, that's rough. That's very, very rough. And now the Palace of Swabia going down. For every villager that's killed after that, it is a big problem for GiveUA. He is definitely going to lose that Palace of Swabia. The Rams look to be the clutch play here by Avely. Imperial Guards have done what they needed to in the south. Took out the siege. They were relatively unprotected. Down to 36 military here. GiveUA is struggling. He doesn't have the wood. He needs to spam out knights. He needs to spend that golden food. He doesn't have anything he can produce wood with. He doesn't have wood to produce anything with. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is a lot of Imperial Guards. It feels like things might be heading in that position where we might have a victor, because that's a menacing army with this number of rams, this number of Imperial Guards. The biggest problem for GiveUA is pound for pound. If he fights with elite knights, he won't win. He's got to get spearmen. To be honest with the Imperial Guards, when they're massed up in these numbers, it's very difficult to find a way to deal with them. And especially when you've got rams behind this, because the rams will destroy the infrastructure. And if they break through and destroy the production buildings, let alone not having a unit to effectively counter this, I mean, he won't be able to produce anything. Imperial Guard's going to dive on that farms. I think this could be it. This is probably the last fight that we're expecting to see. GiveUA needs to find a way to deal with this. If he doesn't, the farmers will go down, the units will go down, the traders will go down, the HRE will go down, the villagers garrisoning inside the town centers. But again, Imperial Age units, they don't care. They're going to ride through the town centers. They won't mind at all. Now it's coming in to try and save the day on the west side with the Imperial Guards taking an engagement there. Suboptimal. I wonder whether a series of suboptimal fights might just save the game for the HRE, save the game for GiveUA. The Imperial Guards, Avely spots it. He's going to combine? No, he's not. He's going to just take the fight. I think he may have A-clicked there, but in any case, the Rams move in. The Knights are in good numbers. I think GiveUA should be able to hold. As I say that, there's a lot of crossbowmen. 2 Springalds. This is looking rough because the Rams are going to take a lot of infrastructure. Even if the Knights take out the Imperial Guards, there's crossbowmen to deal with. And even if those go down, it will take time to deal with the Rams. And that's a lot of infrastructure coming down very quickly. Look at that. Those walls coming, the palisade walls with the villagers, just to deny GiveUA from re-walling that. And it means the Rams continue to focus on everything they can. If they can take out the Arkan Chapel, that would be another big step. Crossbows in decent numbers, and the Knights might get quite close to them, but look, he's microing it as much as he possibly can. Imperial Guards might swap up everything else. The Knights need to ignore the Spring Horse. They need to go on top of the crossbows, but that is it, ladies and gentlemen. The Rams were too much. Avely takes the game on Dry Arabia. GiveUA tried so many different ways to win the game, but it just wasn't enough. Jushi Legacy come out on top.